welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with me, your host, Roberto Revilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer and owner of Roberto Revilla London Suit and Shirt Makers. This is the podcast where you drop in for the threads but often leave with something quite unexpected. I talk to self-starters and creators about their journeys, the highs and lows and the lessons they've learned along the way. If you haven't already, please support the show by subscribing. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please help me out by leaving a rating and a review. In the last episode, I spoke to Natasha Gupta of Blue Feather Designs. A second recording between us. We lost the first recording, but in editing the last episode, I managed to find and salvage a lot of that original recording, and hopefully you had a great time with Natasha on the last episode and are happy enough to spend some time with her again. So here's part 2 with Natasha Gupta. We get into some pretty deep stuff. Hopefully you'll stay for the ride. Here we are again, Natasha Gupta, Blue Feather Designs. Yeah, and not only from my parents, to be fair, it was also some of my friends who were kind of like, you know, your big cousin brothers and stuff like that. They were older than me and they'd gone into jobs in banking. So, and I remember once I got home after I changed the last A-level to what I wanted. I got home and like some of my friends are there. My mum and dad had gotten them round basically to talk sense into me, and they was just saying, oh, you know, like, we don't understand why you've changed all of these subjects to all this arty-farty nonsense. Like, you know, you're not going to get anywhere in life. So you said ugly duckling. I wouldn't use that expression to describe you at all. Where we swim against the stream, right? We're salmon, we swim upriver. I want to try and think of a more ferocious animal. Do you know what, Natasha? It just made me double down. Because I just walked into a living room, right, full of, like, my friends. My parents are sitting there with their arms crossed. They've obviously got everyone right. It was like an intervention, I think they call it. But it just made me double, triple down on what I wanted to do even more. Because I was just like, do you know what? Well, you're not actually helping this.
What do you think brought that strength in you, though? Because it's not easy to go against everyone that's telling you to do something completely different.
My upbringing was quite tough. Dad was quite a strict disciplinarian. When you go through that sort of trauma as a child, I think there is one of two ways that you can go, right? You can either obviously be a victim, which any child is, but you can let that affect you in a negative way as you get older, and then you become resentful of other people and you become hateful and you end up in that spiral yourself. Or you can choose to go against it, try and get through it, and use your experiences to be a better person. So my whole childhood existence was about knowing that one day I wouldn't be at home anymore and that I would do things differently to the way that my mum and dad had done. That's not to say I'm not grateful for my mum and dad, because they worked hard, they tried to keep a roof over our heads and so on. But, you know, I think even if they looked back, they would do things differently. I'm probably not explaining myself very well, but it was all of that kind of went into this whole sort of melting pot that ended up in my personality being someone who, you know, if someone tells me to do something one way, I will basically evaluate it in a microsecond. And if I don't think it's right, I'll just go with my instincts, and I don't care if I offend anybody. I will go the complete opposite. So I always kind of stand for what I believe in.
That's amazing.
But I always try and play things down and come across as dumber than I actually am.
Why do you do it?
I don't know. I don't know why. I got into tailoring, and you're suddenly dealing with a lot of high net worth people, and I'm walking into investment banks and commercial property companies and all these places that I didn't even know existed before I got into this career. Because your role models as a kid, when you come from somewhere I come from, are all people who are in jail or on benefits, or I think I just felt really small or subservient to all these people. And then that just kind of played into me trying to look even dumber, right, than I thought they thought I was. I don't know, it's a really stupid thing. And I would not recommend that to anyone that's listening to this, that's a budding entrepreneur, that's looking to go down a similar sort of career path as us. I would not recommend that at all. You know, work out what your strengths are, be proud of who you are and, you know, what your gifts are, and then just shine your light on the world and don't act the way that I did. But anyway, that's enough about me. We need to get back to you.
No, I think that is. I think that comes with time and experience and age, actually, because you don't have that many, people in their 20s kind of really understanding that, and being able to just be you unapologetically, and kind of embrace the quirks and embrace all of the little bits of you that you thought might not be that great, but actually make you who you are. And I've only just started doing it now, and I think it's empowering so much, kind of feeling like yourself again, because you've always tried to be something for your parents, you've always tried to be something for your peers or people, even your clients, that you think need to see a certain version of you. And that's how I started the business as well. I One of the reasons I called it Blue Feather is because I thought nobody's going to hire a brown girl, so I can't put my name on it, even though my name is not very Indian. It was still something in me that thought I can't have my name on the business because it'll hold me back. And it was, like now it's about me. And, you said to me that I didn't talk about my business. It's because I feel like I don't need to. Once people get to know me, then they'll want to work with me at some point. And that's how it's always been. So all my clients have come through recommendations or through referrals. And I feel like that's not because of, anything I put out on Instagram or the name of my business. It's me. So, like you said as well, it takes time to get to that point. But I think everybody has to go through some sort of cycle where they have to learn and understand who they are and then what they want to put out there as well. Yeah.
But the point of you and I doing things like this is so that people who are in their 20s that maybe didn't have the benefit of any wisdom and experience, because we didn't have that so much. I mean, thank God you had your uncle, so that hopefully they can learn and not sort of get too far down the road of life and then, have that, 20 years of experience and then suddenly they learn lessons. But it's interesting what you say about people getting to know you and then wanting to work with you. When we actually first got to talk, and I kind of had worked out from your intro what you did, I've got this dream of having my own studio space, a real creative, collaborative environment for customers. And I was just thinking to myself, God, I really hope one day I get to work with her. Because also I feel like you kind of get me as well, because we're both, I think, a little bit crazy, aren't we? But anyway, so there's something that you posted on Instagram recently that's really inspired me, and I have been banging on about it to my customers ever since. Can you guess which one it was? It was about colour. It was about colour.
No, I have no idea.
So I don't know where you were, but you posted some pictures of some beautiful plants and flowers and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then your caption basically talked about the colours of nature. So if it goes together in nature, it goes together when you're approaching interior design. And I've never thought of that. So I immediately sat on my workbench and I'm just getting loads of different coloured fabrics and so on. Put some yellow linens and then put some greens underneath them. So I thought of a sunflower. So sketched out yellow jacket, green trousers. And I was like, actually, that works. Then I tried it again, like kind of red jacket, green trousers to represent a rose. And that worked as well. And now whenever I'm walking and I'm out and about with the dogs and so on, I'm just looking out in my back garden right now. And because obviously all the flowers are starting to come out and so on. And I'm seeing so many combinations. It's crazy. And that was so profound to me. But yeah, it's such a, at the same time as it's profound, I'm slapping myself. Is that something that you've discovered along the way, along your sort of career journey? Or is that something that you've always looked at and been inspired by even as a child?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I think in design, there's a lot of psychology involved. So, I was saying about when I meet clients, it's all about them, what they want, what they're trying to achieve. And a lot of it is kind of reading their body language as well. But the color psychology is also a huge part of that. So I think I told you this, it's a little bit crazy, but when I see people, people see people, I see colors. So when I see somebody, I automatically know whether I'm going to whether I'm going to gel with them or not because of their color. And it sounds completely insane, I know. But that's what I see. So I think I told you, with you, I saw green, and green is like my color at the moment. So I'm very attracted to everything green. You know, a lot of my wardrobe has become green. My house is very green. So it's really weird. But you know, there's other colors that I'm naturally drawn to as well. Blue, obviously, pinks, reds. I mean, there's a huge spectrum, but then there's certain things that as soon as I see it, I'm like, oh, I can't be dealing with that right now. Or, you know, I don't want to be talking to you because the vibe is not quite right, or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I think COVID massively helped in that kind of understanding as well. So although I've always been drawn to kind of those natural colors and natural combinations as well, when I was obviously during the pandemic, I did a lot of walking with the family, took the kids out to the park and things like that. And now that they're teenagers, it's actually really difficult to get them out of the house. But we did. Once we were out, they loved it. And, you know, just having that kind of, that moment where you just stop and absorb your surroundings. And you don't really get to do that very much in your day-to-day life. We're always rushing around like headless chickens. But during COVID, I kind of just really kind of stopped and breathed it all in. And, you know, like, you know, how beautiful are the trees? And I've got this massive obsession with trees right now. But, you know, the structure of a tree, how it just knows how far to spread. The colours, the variations of colours as well. Like, you can get intense lime greens and you can get these deep, beautiful emeralds. And then it just got me thinking, you know, and a lot of people have asked me, like, one of the most common questions is, what colour shall I paint the ceiling? That kind of thing. And it's like, well, whatever you want, really. And people are so scared of colour. And that's one of my, you know, kind of my USPs, I guess, is that I'm, you know, hugely passionate about colour and pattern and design and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of people are kind of beige and white and all those icky things. Sorry if you're listening and you like beige, but people are so scared of venturing, even with paint. I mean, what I always tell people is, what's the worst that can happen? If you don't like it, paint over it. You know, it's really not that bad and it's not scary. And I had, I still remember a few weeks ago, this lady said to me, I want to paint my study a really dark navy. I was like, yes, that'll be so amazing. Do it. She's not a client. She was just somebody that I was speaking to. And then she was like, no, that's really quite bold. I was like, okay, do it. If you don't like it, paint it white. And her face was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, it's really not that difficult.
Exactly.
But people are, it's, you know what we said before, people are so scared of what people will think or what the perceived norm should be that they don't like to express themselves. And I think that's such a shame.
You get a lot in property, don't you? Because I told you we're refurbishing our Nightmare of a Bloody House at the moment, and they all want to come in and it's like, just paint it white. Yeah. Maybe you can change the colours after you've lived in it for 2 or 3 years. And I'm thinking, so what are you talking about? Life is too short. I don't want to go 2 or 3 years looking at white walls in this 4-bedroom house. What is wrong with you? I need splashes of colour here and there. You know, I even buy my Nespresso capsules based on what makes me happy. So yeah, so when it comes to painting, I was just like, I said to Carolina, I said, don't bother hiring anyone to decorate. I'm going to do it myself. And we're not going to buy 20 tins of white paint. I'm going to undercoat it, and then I'm going to just feel the vibe of every single room. I said, you know, one of my friends, Natasha, she posted on Instagram recently that, you know, whatever colours you see in nature will work together. And she was like, that is so true. And she got it straight away. So that's how profound that was.
Even accountants can be creative.
Yeah, exactly. You know, some of them. So that was really profound with me, because the way that I've worked up till now, still continue to work, is just on gut instinct. So I do exactly the same as you. I really want to get to know them, you know, when I'm recommending things to them, because again, when it comes to clothing, it's the same sort of thing with property, where people are kind of conditioned to go with neutral, and it's the same with clothing.
Yeah, I get that. I get that, because it is, I mean, there's obviously, you know, different schools of thought. When you're doing property and it's buy-to-let, or it's, you know, primarily for rental purposes or whatever, then it's important to have a white canvas, because as soon as you go into a place, well, I go into a place anyway, I can immediately picture what it would look like. And having a white canvas kind of just helps that thought process. But when you are living in something or you're working in something, and even if it's just for 1 or 2 years, it needs to be yours. It needs to be a reflection of you. And like I said before, even if you do sell it on, then paint it white before you leave. You know, it doesn't have to be that you have to keep it that way because you have to sell it in a little while. I mean, that's so boring. Yeah. And, you know, I really feel I'm so passionate about your environment, your surroundings being a true reflection of you, but also the other way around, you reflect it back as well. So if you're miserable in your surroundings, that's what you're going to output as well. Yeah. And it's the same with clothes, right? If you're not feeling comfortable in what you're wearing, that's gonna come through in your personality as well, and what that kind of interaction you have with people.
Exactly. And we're both quite emotional people. So when you go back to the property example, and you said 3 terms there, you said investment property, there's no emotion in that. Buy to let, no emotion or attachment in that whatsoever. Home, your home. There's so much emotion in that. Home, that's where you spend so much of your time. And your surroundings are so, so important. So I thank you for sharing things like that, because you're continuously inspiring people like me. And also, admittedly, it's making my job a lot easier as well, because I used to give long-winded explanations as to why I was recommending different colour combinations, right? Now I can just say to people, close your eyes for a second, think about a rose. Does that work? Yeah.
I love it, and I really want to see it now.
Yeah, well, all this is coming. I'm all in on linen this year, finally. Feel like I'm growing up, and then I've decided to go green and all these funny colours. You know what it is as well? I get inspired when I don't know if it's the same for you with interior design, but when I get new fabric collections from cloth makers, and there's this new collection from Dugdale's in Huddersfield called Lisbon Linen. So the colours are so vibrant. And there's these beautiful sea foams and bright teals and these really rich coppers and burnt oranges and sunflower yellows. There's no harm in sort of going for those sorts of colours. And I'm not just thinking about that from a clothing point of view. I'm also thinking about that from an interior design point of view as well, because these are things that make me happy.
It's really, you saying that is really important in business as well. It's just made me think. I mean, we both met at a networking event, right? And these things scare the hell out of me. I really hate them, actually.
Yeah.
Just because you're faced with generally speaking, a sea of grey and black. And I'm looking at it going, where the hell do I start with this? And I think the very first thing I said to you is that I love your suit and I love the colour.
I was trying to remember what I was wearing that day. I was wearing the burgundy jacket.
It was like this, it was like an aubergine a colour. It was gorgeous. And, but it's such an important and easy trick when you're in business and you want to stand out. Is like, don't be like everybody else, because how is anybody going to remember you? And I still remember your jacket. Yeah. And it's like, it's so easy to just be a little bit different, even if it's just reserved for those moments where you're out there and trying to kind of establish your business or kind of bring it forward in some way or be memorable in some way.
Yeah.
And it's so easy. And I've learned this from brand people as well, branding agencies and things like that it's really important to stand out on your own as a person, because people remember you. And I always try, even if I'm having a bit of a shitty day and just want to wear black, I'll add a pop of colour, and then people will be like, oh, that's really nice and that's really vibrant. Yesterday I was at Clerkenwell, and I had just this random guy come to me, be like, I love your necklace. It's really bright. And I was like, thanks. It actually makes people feel better, as it makes you feel good as well. But also remember you as well.
Oh, thank you. But it was the same for me with you as well, because you were wearing that green, I think it was a green velvet jacket. Yeah. And your glasses are so cool. I need to get new glasses at the moment, but it's really difficult for me because my eyesight is really bad. Like I'm a -7.5. So if I didn't wear contact lenses, you would just literally look like a blob.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my glasses always end up being quite thick. And so the opticians always push me to certain frames to sort of try and hide the thickness and so on. But now I'm thinking, do you know what? I'm blind, right? I should just embrace it at the end of the day. I can't do anything about it.
Geek chic.
Yeah, that's it. Geek chic. But where was I going with that? So being introverts, which is the same for me as well. Networking events I've avoided my entire career up until recently. And then I made a New Year's resolution and I said, you know what, this year, if I'm asked to go to stuff, I'm just going to say yes and worry about it later. But then I started to create outfits for myself that were less conventional. And the idea basically was that if I'm not going to bounce up to people and introduce myself, I might as well do something to get them to come up to me. Because if people come up to me, I'm fine-ish. Yeah. But I can't do it the other way around.
So is that something you did just for the networking, or would you have done it anyway? Have like these, a bit out there clothes? I
started to do it for the networking. And then when I realised that it was like a beacon, I was thinking, do you know what? Like when I'm walking into these big firms and stuff, I need to really show what I can do. It doesn't matter if they look at me and they go, I can't pull that off. That's a separate conversation for me to have with them. I get people who are, like Atish, Metric Connect, social media marketing.
Yep.
And he was talking about, I'm not as smart as you and so on. I said to him, you look great because you wear a T-shirt and you wear a jacket over it and you're wearing chinos and trainers, whatever. I wouldn't expect you to dress like an accountant if you were coming to see me to deal with social media marketing. And I'm a tailor and I design menswear, for God's sake, right? Why am I dressing... I've got outfits that are my accountant outfits and I've got my lawyer outfits and this. No, why am I dressing for everybody else? I need to start dressing for myself. Anything that doesn't, it's the, what's her face, Marie Kondo concept, right? If it doesn't spark joy, why are you doing it?
Absolutely. Yeah. But, who the hell made the rule that accountants and lawyers and all of these, anyone, in fact, has to go around wearing blue and black? Who made that rule? Shoot them.
Yeah. But it's that herd mentality thing where we feel we need to fit in to get along in life for an easier ride or something. I've had this push-pull with the way that I present myself to the world and that I've been trying to conform in order to get these high net worths to accept me. But now, I dress for myself now. I go into places and my clients will look at me and they'll go, okay, I need to get some suits today, but nothing like that. I can't pull that off. And I'm like, why do you think that? Mm-hmm. And now that becomes like, remember Simon was talking about having a game with people? This is the game that I like to have with people now. Why do you think that? That's the question I asked them.
Yeah.
Well, because when I've tried to wear stuff like that in the past, like my colleagues or my friends take the mick out of me. Okay, and you live your life by what they all think, do you? So
I love it. You're going to create a generation of rebels.
Yeah, I need to, right? Because look at the state of dress in this country, especially post-pandemic. It's becoming... That brings me on to something I wanted to ask you about. So how was your business during that 2-year period?
So at the beginning of 2019, I had around 20 projects lined up. This is January. It was set to be the busiest year of my career. And I was looking to hire people, so I'd put out job specs and stuff like that because it was so busy. And then Boris said, we're going to have a lockdown. Every single one of them, bar one, pulled out. Every single one. And they were all like, we don't know whether we're going to actually survive being closed down. And we don't know how long we're going to be closed for. And it's too uncertain. And we just can't take the risk of putting money into the business right now. So they all left. And I was left with nothing. I gave them back their discount, their deposits, because I'm not the kind of person that would keep that, having not done the work. So they all ran away and I was faced with a little bit of a dilemma. All of my friends that were doing residential design were crazy busy. They've never been busier because people were in their homes thinking, right, we can't live like this. We need to improve it. So they were all like, do residential for the meantime while things pick up in the commercial space. So I toyed with the idea in the beginning. I was like, okay, let me do this. And my heart was just not in it. And every single person was like, you're an idiot. You need to be doing something. How are you going to survive? It was the whole Marie Kondo thing. It just did not give me any joy to do it. And every single person was like, we want a white box. I was like, ugh.
Sorry.
I just don't want to do it.
My cat's just walked across the thing. Go away. Sorry.
So I didn't. But like I said before, I kind of spent the time on the outdoors. We did so much walking, spent huge amount of quality time with the kids. They're 15 and 12 now. and they're at that stage in life where they just don't want to spend time with us anymore. So I really took advantage of kind of like they're with me and they're stuck with me. So I'm going to try and, kind of get every hug I can. But I just made the most of it. And, I kind of used that time to develop the business, work on the business as opposed to in the business. It's when I joined Founders as well, because I thought, right, I need to be talking to people. But yeah, in answer to your question, it was pretty crap. The business was basically shut down for 2 years. And then as soon as lockdown lifted, attitudes changed, cultures changed as well, in terms of consumers and the operators as well. So now people have come to the realization that actually Deliveroo is such a, so well used now, it's become a household name. Everybody uses it. We need to give people a reason to come to us again, because people are like, well, we just get takeout. It's so much more comfortable sitting at home. And I don't know if you remember, back in the day, you'd only go to a restaurant if it was a special occasion. It wasn't like a normal thing that you just rock up with your friends every single day or meet, have a business meeting in a restaurant. It wasn't the done thing, sort of, I'm talking, 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, it was only for special occasions, and it's kind of reverted back to that. So, there needs to be a reason to go out. Even if it is just for a meeting, there needs to be like, well, actually the surroundings there are really comfortable, or it's quiet enough that I can sit there with my laptop or anything like that. There needs to be a reason. And people have come to realize that now. So it's become busy again because people are like, right, we need to do something. We actually can't just sit here and operate how we've been operating for the past 10, 15 years now. Things need to change. So it's become really busy. So these past few months have been pretty insane. So yeah, I mean, good and bad, I guess. I think I've learned a lot over the pandemic. I've helped a lot of people. So I set up these webinars where I had an accountant come in and talk through, how you can manage cash flows during this time. We had a lawyer come in to explain furlough and all these terms that nobody had heard of before. And people have come back from that. So people are like, oh, I joined one of your webinars and, it was really useful. And, now I need help with design. And this was not a sales tactic by any means. It was me trying to calm myself and be like, right, I need to keep myself busy and do something. Otherwise I'm going to go mad. So yeah, that's kind of come around full circle. And I've had like Michelin star chefs come to me now saying, I saw that you were doing this and you clearly know what you're talking about. And none of them have been like, let me see your work. It's always been about me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a tough couple of years. Definitely. I went to some really dark places, but I think I've come out of it a lot happier and having spent time with the kids and kind of connecting with the trees again.
Same as you. The number of times I've heard this same thing as well, like January, February of that year, 2020, we were looking at the numbers and we were like, do you know what? We can go and get our own space and get out of the workroom now, because my wife's worked from home for 10 years. She hates it. So we can finally get her out, take a space, start to push the business on, start to hire people. We were going to smash all records. It was going to be our best year ever. And then same thing, he announces lockdown. That's it. We're shut. Lights off overnight. Workroom's closed. One of my clients said to me, no one's going to need tailoring anymore, are they? And for some reason, I'm not the sort of person, as you know, that listens to stuff like that. But that I really took to heart. Got my head out my arse a couple of weeks later, launched Smart Casual, because I was like, they're not sitting at home naked, so let's just find out what they are wearing.
Some of them might be.
Well, I had one person very proudly tell me that he'd be on Zoom calls, like all smart up top and not wearing anything underneath. Like he thought it was a joke, because we're so immature, right? And I just looked at him and I said, are you really proud of what you just told me? Because I got so angry. I was just joking. I said, but you're not joking. What you told me is the truth, right? Well, yeah, that's what I do. I just sit here in my pants and then I'm wearing a shirt and a tie on top. But that's deceptive, because you just told me you're hiding what's going on below with clients that you're down the video tube with. You're not being honest, are you? They don't know it. They're probably never going to find out unless they listen to my podcast. But you know it. So you're deceiving them. How much effort, how long does it take you to put a pair of trousers on? Anyway, so what I did,
Yeah.
I looked at who was hiring, and Deliveroo and Uber Eats were hiring, and I've got a Vespa, so I basically got a job with both of them, and I was doing Deliveroo and Uber Eats for pretty much most of that first year. And that was a really sobering experience. You have to work long hours, you're not getting paid much money. When you get into the mechanics of it, those guys are taking money from everyone down the chain. The only people that are winning are Deliveroo and Uber Eats, people that are listening to this. So think about this before you hit that button in the app to order, to take, to get food in. Delivery, Uber Eats are taking on average 30-40% of the restaurant bill. Then they're taking a little bit from the drivers. Then they're taking extra from you in a service fee. They're making tons of money off it. The people who aren't, most restaurants were only doing delivery service just to try and stay afloat and keep the lights on. So if there's a reason for anyone, if you're not cooking at home and you're going to eat out, go out there, support your local restaurants. I went to Kyoto Sushi in West Hampstead the other evening on the way home because we didn't have anything in and I needed to pick something up. And they recognised me when I came in because I was one of the nice Deliveroo guys, right? They were so happy to see me, and I said, you guys are only around the corner, and I don't mind sitting here for 20 minutes waiting for the food, but surely this is better for you, right? And she said, yeah, much better. She said, it's 40% better for us. You actually save a little bit of money as well. But she goes, it's much better when you guys ring up. She goes, ring up and collect or order in and wait and then take it or whatever because it, we're retaining all of the profit, and it means that we can actually pay the staff as well. So anyway, sorry, that was my little rant on Deliveroo and so on.
It's. I think people need to know it though, and if you didn't say it, I would have. That so many people don't realise that if they go directly, that it's actually cheaper, but also better for the operator, and they're supporting them more. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Deliveroo and Uber Eats have, they've helped in a certain way in terms of, they've obviously got a huge marketing spend. They've got overheads and whatnot. Every business has, and I would never put down a business for whatever reason. But there's no denying that their margins are very difficult for operators to deal with, especially during hard times like the pandemic was. A 40% cut is a massive amount, and if they put their prices up by that much, the customers just wouldn't come. So there's no way of recouping that money. So, I think it is important for people to understand the mechanics of everything, which is what you touched on it in the beginning, but I'm about sustainable business. It's not just about design, and that's not sustainable for any business. So it's about understanding. So, but there's a way up. So I was talking to quite a few operators, as I said, during the pandemic. All right, get your own drivers would be like the most, sensible thing that people would say, if you can't afford Deliveroo, then get your own drivers. But actually, that's not the solution. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. You have to then pay them their wage as well. There was a huge shortage of people willing to take on that work. You'd have to give them contracts. You'd have to give them, plans, healthcare, and all the rest of whatever comes on a payroll. And actually, that would be more expensive for them. So it's just really difficult. There were really difficult decisions to make during that time. And I think what people do, everybody does, it's human nature. They're very quick to kind of jump to conclusions like, oh, you're moaning about everything, but it's a really easy solution. But actually, until you're in it and you're trying to manage that business by yourself, it's like what the guy said to you, all of a sudden you're doing really well. That perception of things is so easy to jump to those conclusions, but actually you don't have any idea what's going behind closed doors. Even Deliveroo and Uber Eats they've got a business model to run. They've got a lot of staff. They've got overheads to pay. So, if you spoke to them, then maybe they'd say, well, actually 40% is our very minimum. If we didn't charge that much, we'd never be able to cover our overheads. We don't really know what the story is there. So,
no, exactly. And it is a more complex issue than the cut and dried way that I put it, because when you go back to Deliveroo, the other thing that I preach to people is if you're going to use Deliveroo, Uber Eats and these delivery services, tip the drivers. Tip them. Yeah. Because a lot of those guys, they have to take out in food insurance so that if they can't ride without it. If they don't have food insurance, and it's all done electronically and it's linked to their driver app and so on, and if they don't have insurance, they can't deliver. They haven't got a job. But in order to cover their costs of fuel, the delivery insurance and so on, a lot of riders have to work for an entire week, sometimes 2 weeks, before they actually start making any money, just to cover their own costs. And when you tip them, so a lot of people say, oh, I don't tip delivery riders and that because, you know, I don't need to give delivery any more money. They've already taken a service fee from me. But the tips, you know, we're so grateful for the tips because we get to keep 100% of that. If someone, I remember someone once tipped me 20 quid, which is ridiculous. But it was because he'd ordered from McDonald's when McDonald's started to do delivery and no one was picking up his order. So sometimes when your order's delayed, it's because people are looking at your address and they're like, I'm not going there. And I'm not going to go to McDonald's and wait for that because we all knew, like when Wagamama's launched delivery, it was pandemonium and their orders were taking so long. And if your driver's having to wait more than 2 minutes to pick a meal up, he's losing a lot of money because when you're only earning £10 to sometimes you can earn £20 an hour, but that's very rare. But when you're on average earning £10-12 an hour, waiting more than 3 minutes to pick something up is a long time. Anyway, this poor guy, 5 riders had rejected his thing. And because obviously I'm all about customer service, I was like, he rang me and he was like, I don't understand why my order keeps getting rejected. And I said, listen, it's pandemonium down here in Finchley Road, but I'm going to get your food to you, don't worry. So got it to his house and they tipped me 20 quid. And do you know what? I was so grateful because that took me over the 60 quid that I'd set myself a target to earn that evening. And it meant I could go home and that Carolina didn't have to be without me until 1 o'clock in the morning. And all I was trying to do was just put some, you know, cover electric bills and all that sort of stuff at home and actually do something. Also, I just like to keep busy. But tipping your drivers is so important. Well, how's this gone from an interior design discussion to talking about food delivery? This is crazy.
Well, you know, our conversations are always food-based.
Yeah,
that's no
this
surprise.
is it. What's the future for Blue Feather? Because obviously you've got the actual core business, but then there's a lot that you're doing outside of that with helping other people. And not just people that are within the industry, but also people who, you know, youngsters that are coming through education and so on into your world. But where do you kind of see the next kind of 3 to 5 years?
I don't. It's a really rubbish answer, I know, and every business owner should have.
It's not, actually, do you know what? It's a good answer because it's a good answer because you're not bullshitting.
The thing is, right, I have always been super organized in what I do. I'm a list maker. I love my spreadsheets, but it's on a daily basis. I'm never kind of forecasting like what's going to happen because, like I said, I've been through some really dark times, and what I've learned is all about the present, and it needs to be all about the present, and you need to make the most out of everything you do on a daily basis. Hakuna Matata is like my motto for life. But it's like, you know, I don't know what the hell's going to happen in 5 years. I literally have no idea. And I feel like if I plan for it and it doesn't go that way, then I'm going to be really pissed off. So I just don't do it. Don't do it. I don't plan. But I mean, you know, in terms of kind of dreams and ambitions, I mean, I would love for it to grow. I would love to hire people as I thought I would do a couple of years ago. And I've kind of got back to that position again. So that would be great. I would love to have an office space where I can kind of spread out as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, none of those are kind of important, really, if that makes sense. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be too worried because things are going well and I'm really happy with how things are right now. So yeah, I mean, life ambitions are not that big, to be honest. I'm really happy with how things are going, and if I continue to kind of go on that trajectory of just being happy and being able to eat every day and go out and see friends, then actually it's a good life, I think.
I've generally been that way for most of my career on my own, but prior to that, because I was in environments where essentially you were in sales, so you always had to goal set and so on. And then I kind of was able to sort of let that pressure go when I started working for myself. So it was the same as you. It's like, as long as I can pay the bills every month and be happy, and go on a couple of holidays a year and, you know, just be comfortable, then that's fine. You know, it's only just kind of recently, as we emerge from the pandemic, I just feel there's a shift in my business. You know, I've not had to make an outbound call pretty much all year, which for the first time in my career, seriously, not chasing after people. I was like, why me? Apparently it's because they read about you online and they like your vibe and they feel like they get to know you, because everything we do, we try and keep it very real and very personal. It's like when you look at your website and anything that you post online as well, it's like there's no BS there. You are who you are. You know, you don't look like you're trying to be someone else. You know, what you see is what you get. There's absolutely no hiding with this person at all. But so there's a shift in my business, and it's got me thinking that I do want to do more. So I kind of want to just turn the screw a little bit and see where I can take it. But my number one objective is what you said a couple minutes ago, which is I need room to spread out. And so I really want to go find my own studio type environment. And yeah, I do talk about wanting to hire and so on. That is definitely something that I want to do.
Maybe we can get a space together.
I was thinking that when you said it, actually.
Can I show you? You can see this is my sample library right now. It's such a mess. Like everywhere is samples of fabric.
That looks so organized. I'm not going to take you upstairs to show you my corner of the home. It is chaos. You'll know which one is Carolina's and you'll know which one is mine. Because like hers is all very orderly, and anything that she's left for when she gets back from holiday has got Post-it notes on it and stuff. And then you look at mine, and it is literally like everything has been thrown at it, and where it's landed, it's landed. It's kind of organised to me.
Organised chaos.
To other people, it just looks like a mess. Yeah. But no, yours is that to me is like pristine,
this has just
organised.
Been tidied up, because usually when I'm working, and you're probably the same, like you're flinging things around because you're trying to understand what you want to do, and your brain doesn't work in a linear fashion. So it's like, right, let me try that, and you kind of, this is what I mean by spread out. Yeah. And I actually am all over the floor right now because I'm sampling for a project, and I can't sit in one space because I need to kind of like, I need to map out my brain on the floor, and that takes up a lot of space.
Do you also do that physically as well when you're with clients? So I seem to spend a lot of time on my knees when I'm with customers. If KP's listening to this, stop laughing, and Richira as well. I measured him at a founders event, at that founders event that you and I were at together, and Rich has got a photo of me that is very incriminating. Oh God. But do you see KP standing there with his hands on his hips as well? Like he's really proud. But that's not what I meant by that. What I meant by that is, so what happens is I go into a client's boardroom, or when they come to the workroom, I've got everything set out and neatly ordered. But by the end of the appointment, I'm literally on the floor, and there's like fabric spread out all over the place, like everywhere. Like often I can't even find stuff.
I'm the same.
Our brains don't work in linear fashion. I suddenly just start to become this tornado as the appointment goes on.
Funny thing is that it's, I don't think it's normal, because when I start doing it, people look at me like, what the hell are you doing? And also I guess the way I look, I look a little bit delicate. So obviously my work is on a building site. So when I'm like, I've got my work boots on and I'm climbing ladders and I'm getting into roof shafts and all of this kind of thing, they're looking at me like, are you sure you're okay with that? Are you sure you can do that? I was like, yeah, I need to get in there to have a look and see what I'm working with. I can't just look at it, from the face of it. I need to understand the bones of the place. So I'm like on my knees kind of checking like what's underneath the floor. I'm getting into roof. I'm getting under plasterboard. And they're like, are you sure you're okay with it? Are you okay going up a ladder? I was like, dude, there's nothing wrong with me. I can go up a ladder. But I think that's actually one of my problems as well, is that my industry is actually very male dominated. So when they see a woman doing it, they're like, well, you can't possibly understand how a building works. You can't possibly understand plumbing or electrics. It's like, well, actually I have to. If I don't, and I start to specify things, the first thing that the electrician's going to come back with is actually that's physically impossible to do. So it's really important for me to understand those things. But yeah, that's one of the biggest obstacles for me, is one being brown and one being a woman. And it's like in the construction industry, that's really quite difficult. And I've had to, that's another conversation, but there's always been like difficulties of just getting my foot through the door sometimes, because it's, well, firstly, you look too young. You can't understand the industry. You're very delicate looking. You can't be going up ladders. All of those kind of conversations. And that's kind of helped me get stronger as well, because now I'm able to slap them and be like, well, actually I can, so shut up. But before I'd be like hiding in a corner, because it's like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I can't do it.
Do you find that that's getting any easier, or that generally people are being a bit more kind of receptive or accepting? I don't know what the right expression is of us.
No to both.
As time goes on, or do you find that, you know, all of this stuff that is out, you know, like on social media and news and...
Controversial, but I feel like it's all performative. You know, there's very few people that actually mean what they say. And for me, the change and the shift has been within me. So now I just don't take any bullshit from people. And it's like, you know, if you're going to think that way, then see you later. I don't need to work with you. But if you want my expertise, I've been in the industry for a really long time and I do know what I'm doing, then I'm here for you. But the funny thing is that I always start with a conversation that makes them understand that I know. So, you know, I can't give you an example off the top of my head, but I'll say something and then they're like, oh, how do you know that? I'm like, well, because I know what I'm doing. So I think the shift has definitely been in me. I don't shy away anymore, and I don't kind of hide in a corner thinking, actually, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe I am too small. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But actually, I know that I do. And I think that's that shift now.
I think being female adds that extra layer of difficulty still as well. I don't see it myself, just personally. And I think that comes from the fact that, you know, I grew up with two sisters. I didn't have any brothers. Most of my friends going through college were women. And in fact, you know, most of my best and closest friends, even now, are women as well. I'm going to a baby shower on Saturday, and I heard someone comment yesterday going, men don't go to baby showers. And I was like, well, I seem to be one of the girls, so I am going. So there you go. And also, you know, you take my wife, right? She's 5'2". She's way behind on this podcast. So, you know, I'm not going to get that slap for another few months, because she says she's 5'3". She's not. And people underestimate her all the time because she's a woman. And, you know, especially because we've been trying to build this damn house, and because that is such a sexist industry. And I totally get what you mean when I think of some of the characters that we've had to deal with as well. If she doesn't understand something, and what a lot of people in the building industry do is they like to hold on to knowledge like it's power. It gets one over on you. So if she doesn't understand something and you're not explaining it to her, what she will then go and do is, like Neo in the Matrix, she'll shove a mini disc in her head and she will educate herself to the nth degree until she's an expert. And then she'll reconvene with you on site. But now she knows what she's talking about. And the number of times I've sat in the background, because what they'll also do, she's the project manager. I've got nothing to do with it, but she's the boss. And they look at me all the time. They completely ignore her. And it really pisses me off. And I tell them, I'm like, dude, stop looking here. Look over there. She's the boss. She's the one you're going to answer to. And don't BS her, because she knows what she's talking. They do not listen to me. And I remember one specific conversation where a plumber and a carpenter were arguing with her. And they're looking at me. And I just said to them really quietly, I said, listen, she knows exactly what she's talking about. And by the end of this conversation, you're going to be admitting that she's right. So save us all the time and just shut up and listen to her, yeah? And just get on board. And they didn't. And 10 minutes later, they turned around to me and they're like, she actually knows what she's talking about. And I was like, yeah, what part of what I explained to you before did you doubt? But it all comes from the point of view that they think because she's a woman and she's on a building site, she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about.
Yep. I could give you so many stories.
I bet. That's it's another podcast. Like we'll do that as another episode, right? Like a bonus episode, and we'll promote that out to the building industry as well. Natasha, have you had fun?
Yes, so much fun. I just looked at the time when you said it, and I didn't realise how fast it's gone. Thank you.
That's okay. You're welcome. Where can people find you online?
I hang out on Instagram far too much, so that would be the first place. I've also got a website.
I know. Do you know what? I know if I need to get hold of you, I just send you a message on Instagram because I know I'm going to get a quicker answer than a text.
Yeah.
I find
I'm
it
always
hilarious.
on Instagram. I think that is probably the place to be.
So yeah, I will put all of your links in the show notes. Just remember, if you're going to approach Natasha, just approach with good energy, okay? Otherwise, she's not going to see you.
Cake.
And cake.
Great. Yes.
Cake really helps. Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Atish asked that on his podcast, and I find it such an interesting question. Because for me, I could do either. It just depends what mood I'm in.
I used to drink coffee. When I was in the city, I was drinking coffee, like, literally on a drip. But I think I got put off it during my second pregnancy, and then I haven't had it since. So tea, 2 sugars, and lots of milk.
Tea it is. Let's get together. I'm sure there are some fantastic independent bakeries and cake places around where you are. I'm going to pay you a little visit, and we're going to go sit outside in the sunshine with some tea and cake.
That sounds so perfect.
Fantastic. Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much for joining me and Natasha on this episode. Don't forget that Tailoring Talk is now on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast, and you know I love feedback. So you can also email the show directly at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. As I said at the top of the show, please remember to subscribe, rate and review. You can also click the share button in your player to send the show on to people you know. If you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and feel compelled to throw some change our way and support the show, you can now buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Roberto Revilla. Have a great week, and I'll see you on the next one.